has to do with accountability for staff, students, and the governing board. Accountability is an important concept in education, and different people have different concepts of who ought to be held accountable for student learning and how that accountability should work. The candidate questionnaire that candidates filled out gave you an opportunity to outline your sense of how different groups, teachers, students, administrators, governing board members ought to be held accountable. What specific measures should the governing board adopt in the area of accountability? For example, are the evaluation systems for certificated personnel adequate? Should they be changed? In what ways are students held accountable for their actions? Should there be any changes in that arena? And finally, how will the board know if any changes you make are successful? And each of the candidates has 3 minutes for this response. Mr. Hicks.
That was a mouthful. Well, first of all, we now have the legislature, or the voters of Arizona has passed Proposition 301 regarding the performance base for all districts, their teachers. I believe that a teacher does not come into this profession to fail. I don't believe that they come into this profession to fail any student. I believe that the system ends up failing the student. One thing that I've noticed is the teachers, if you ever go to the schools, they spend their own money buying supplies, buying books, buying tissues, buying whatever to help these students grow. I think the accountability for the students, making the students accountable, they need to come into class, they need to be ready to learn. I told a story a couple of days ago when I was talking regarding some accountability with students. I went into my son's school when he was going to Santa Rita High School. Went in to visit to see what was going on. I go in there, I see the teacher teaching to maybe 5 or 6 students. This is high school. This is sophomore in high school. And I see the teacher teaching to these 5 students, and every single one of them, including my son, was sitting there texting. That's not accountable. The teacher's not held accountable for that. The students aren't held accountable for that. I believe that the teachers in that classroom do rule that classroom, and the students need to be accountable and be able to take, a cell phone away from them or tell them not to have a cell phone. We are looking at making teachers a performance-based, pay for performance-based recognition. I think that something like that will help teachers. It provides them better abilities to plan their classrooms. It helps the learning environment. Everybody needs to be held accountable. When they were saying that, who's accountable? We're all accountable. As taxpayers, you expect a student, when they leave this school, when they leave this district, to be able to have basic reading, math, writing, basic skills to be able to function in this society. Currently, we don't have that. We need to get back to making sure that everybody's accountable. The board is accountable. The board needs to start becoming more of a critical thinker and trying to figure out how to make these things work better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Kane.
Well, first we have to think of ways of helping teachers to succeed, setting them up to succeed, helping our students, setting them up to succeed, and measuring the success of programs by very basic things. Are we looking at a continuation of higher education? Are we looking at a decrease in dropout rates? Are we looking at renewed enthusiasm in education, critical thinking? Those are easy things to try to use to measure the success of programs, and easy way to really think about what is actually working. I have there's been a lot of talk about programs that don't work, and I think in many ways that has been politicized. I think what we need to do is really find the stellar programs. I agree that we have to be better ambassadors about the programs that work and duplicate them. That's what businesses always talk about. If you have a business, the basic business 101 concept is if your product sells, if consumers like that product, duplicate it. Find ways to produce more of those products. Well, we have a lot of wonderful programs. Opening Minds Through the Arts is a perfect example. That's a great program. And we have found that it really does, it's a really great way to measure that success is by finding exactly how it sells. I'm not really supportive of the politicizing of decision making. The kind of accountability we're talking about now is mean-spirited. We are listening to politicians in Phoenix who, for whatever reason, use a certain criteria for one program and don't apply it to the next. I would be very concerned if Opening Minds Through the Arts suddenly was questioned about its curriculum. I want to see evidence. I want a superintendent who specifically says, what is the, I'm not interested in hearsay. I want to see exactly what the evidence is, and I'll base my decision exactly on that. I would be very, very concerned if we suddenly start to create witch hunts and we hurt programs like Opening Minds Through the Arts. I think also that we need to think about how we talk about supporting and holding teachers accountable. Think about this. Police officers do an incredible job in our community, and we always recognize that there may be a few bad apples, but we never judge the entire department by the actions of a few bad apples. We address those bad apples and we continue on and we support our officers. Oftentimes, teachers have been demonized for everything. There's some incredibly hardworking teachers, and we have to find ways to set them up to succeed and partner with them to find out how we can work together to hold all of us accountable. Because really, our entire community has to be held accountable because we all depend on the success of TUSD. If TUSD does not succeed, we cannot succeed as a community. Economic development and so many other things. It's completely connected to everything that we do.
Thank you. Mr. Solis?
Well, I think that when they first set up the school system and they had grades 1 through 12, somebody thought that when you go from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3, that there's some accountability there. That in other words, you didn't stay in the first grade if you learned what you needed to learn in the first grade to get to the second grade. What seems to have happened is that all of us, parents, the system, if you will, have lost our sense of responsibility to the children. Because they're there when they come in the first grade, they don't know anything, and they're in our hands. They're in the hands of the teachers, they're in the hands of the adults and the administrators. And if we let them go through that process at that young age, and we can't teach them what they should learn, then somebody is responsible, and it certainly isn't the kids. But the kids ultimately are the ones that are held accountable. Because if they're pushed out, or they drop out, or they graduate and they can't read, and they can't write, and they can't compute, and they have to spend 2 years in Pima College or 3 years in Pima College before they can even go to the university, then the adults are the ones who should be held accountable. And if it means that we have to do a harder job, it means that we have to spend more time, it means that we have to measure the conduct of our teachers, administrators more harshly, then that's what has to be done. It's just like a doctor. You're not going to let a doctor graduate from medical school and operate on you if he can't pass the test. You don't want him. You just don't want him. Why would we allow our kids to go through the system as we have, graduate and call them high school graduates when they can't function at the level a high school graduate should be allowed to function? So we have to look at ourselves, and if the teachers haven't learned how to teach, then somebody needs to go to the university and say, what's wrong with your system here? It's not functioning. If they need more training, we have to give it to them. But we have to hold people, the adults, accountable for the failure of our system because the kids are our charges. It's not the other way around. Oh, I got another minute. You know, it's the legislature, and Governor Brewer, when she made the application for Race to the Top, had some statutes passed. One of them was that very soon, third graders, before they will will be promoted to the fourth grade, are going to have to be functioning at grade level in reading. And if you think about it, we should do that at the 3rd, the 6th, and the 8th grade, the 10th grade, and the 12th grade. And it shouldn't be just in reading, it should be in writing, it should be in math, it should be in science, it should be in language. Our curriculum at TUSD should prepare the child to be able to go to any university or do whatever that child wants to be able to do when it graduates from high school, capable of going out in the world and either being a laborer, a technician, or a doctor to go to college. And we're responsible.
Thank you. Ms. Rahal.
What specific measures? You know, it's a difficult question because there's so many variables. When you're looking at who's held accountable, students are held accountable at the middle school and high school for their role as far as setting aside time to study. Parents have a role in that as well as being a good advocate for their child. Teachers are the direct connection to what the learning that's going on in the classroom. Parents are supporting that at home. And if that's not a possibility to be able to support that, then there are a lot of homework help sites at libraries. I mean, there are ways to support that. But one of the things that concerns me about these set limits on after the 3rd grade, they should be doing X, Y, and Z. After the 4th grade, they should be doing this, is that you can't assume what is going on with the child when the school year starts. That child may be coming to you from out of state, from another school, and not at reading level. Perhaps they're coming in with language deficiencies, undiagnosed learning disabilities. Those are things that are learned throughout the year. And so to put that whole weight on a teacher, as far as if this 3rd grader doesn't pass this test, then it is the teacher that's going to be held accountable. It is absolutely the entire district and our entire community for what's going to happen, for failing that child. We need to work together to be able to come up with an evaluation with our teachers, because this is something that's coming up down the way. Our superintendent, this superintendent that we're hiring, we're going to need to set aside 20% of their salaries and benefits for a sort of pay for performance. This is something that is coming down the pike for teachers as well, and administrators. And so I think that we need to work together to come up with something that's going to be equitable and fair, and something that everyone is bought into. One of the things I've learned in this district is if we make decisions that are top down, the sites don't embrace it. It's not something that they own, and it's very difficult to make those kind of decisions. We need to support what's going on in every classroom by supporting what's happening with the teachers, with site personnel, with principals, and evaluate that together. Let's come up with the criteria together, because I think that is what is the real strength of TUSD. The other thing that is a measurable indicator is the recruitment and retention of students from pre-K to graduation and dropout recovery. That is an actual way to measure that we're doing what we need to do for our children.